Colton here, teaching you how to make sourdough bread. Okay, we have the ingredients over here. We have 1,000 grams of flour, we have 700 milliliters of water, or 700 grams of water, and then we also have 200 grams of flour, or of the starter. To start out, I take some water and I pour it into the starter. I then take a spatula and get it a little bit mixed in. I use warmer water so that it dissolves into a liquid easier. After this is done, I start to add some flour. This is kind of difficult one-handed. After doing this, you add it all together and stir. After combining the flour, you'll combine all the water and all the flour into the mixture. You may have to stir it, or you may even have to get your hands in there and just sink it in. As you can see, I'm mixing in all the dough, different bowl, but I'm making two different batches. So, I added all the flour, or I added some of the flour in the water, so we got a nice mixture here. It's very liquidy. So I'm going to keep adding flour. And a bit more. I'm going to throw in a bit more water. But you don't want to use all the water because you want a little bit left for the end, just in case you need a little bit more extra liquid. Then you're going to start mixing and mixing. Ooh, a little bit of jumping out. And so, getting there in there. Okay, so as you can see, I've kind of done all that I can do with the spatula. So we're going to break this off. Now we're going to take the flexible scraper. You need one of these, it makes life easier. So you're going to go in and you're going to start scraping the edges where there's been some flour buildup that didn't get any water. You're going to try to mix that all in, scrape it up. You're going to do a little bit of chopping. Make things up, and then after you've mixed it up a bit more, the dough will feel nice and warm because you used warm water. Then we're going to start breaking it up with your fingers and mixing in all the dry bits with the wet dough. I like to use just one hand because it does get very sticky and it's easier to clean your hand after if you have one clean hand, and then you can use the scraper. So as you can see, there's a bunch of flour down here in the bottom. So you're going to scoop that up, grab it, kind of mix that all together. And then to end at this part, usually you'll take your scraper and then you'll scrape your hand off with all that extra dough that's lingering and makes cleaning your hands after really hard. So one thing to remember at the end is you'll probably have a little bit of water left. I already poured it in, but, just a little drop. But when you pour that drop in, it'll give you a bit more liquid in the dough, make it a little bit more easy to mix up. Can get some nice mix. You don't want to get any dry bits. Work out all those little dry lumps that are in there. Another thing, you want to be using a glass bowl or a plastic bowl. You don't want to use metal. It just helps with retaining heat and things not getting too messy and gross. So, once you get your dough all complete, in the first step, you're going to take some saran wrap, pop it off. Ooh. This is a very extreme talent. And then it doesn't really work for plastic quite as well as for glass sticking. But you're going to cover it over. Make sure it generally is over top of it. So after 30 minutes has passed, we're going to measure out our salt, which is 22 grams, and our warm water, which is 50 grams. And we're going to pour it in and mix it up. And then after that, we're going to add to our dough. Make sure you scrape out all the salt. Maybe just like a drop of water. Just swirl it around, pump it in. And then after that, we're going to take your cutter and you're going to cut it into the dough. And then after this is done, we're going to wet our hands with it. Going to grab the flexible scraper. And then you're going to loosen all the dough off the edges. You're going to take your hands, both hands, and mix it up. Make sure you get the bottom, because the bottom can get a little chunky with just drying or like dried dough or dried flour. Take it, keep mixing it, and then you're going to take it and you're going to like run it through your hands like a rope, and make sure there isn't any bumps in the dough. Found one little one, kind of work it out a bit, and then try to make sure it kind of all stays connected so you don't get any breakage in the dough. Make sure the gluten strands stay strong. So after you have ran it through your hands, then we're going to do our first fold. So you're going to take it and you're going to pull it up and you're going to fold it over. And turn it 90 degrees, take it and fold it over on itself. And then 90 degrees, and then take it, fold it over on itself. And then 90 degrees, and then take it, fold it over on itself. You want to make sure it all stays together so that it's one cohesive piece of dough. And then you finish that, you'll put the saran wrap over top of it and then leave it for another 30 minutes. So we waited 30 minutes, now we're going to take our dough to the next level of folding. First we're going to wet our hands. Take a flexible scraper, wet that. And you're going to take it and you're going to loosen up the dough from the edges. Helps if you like wet it down a bit so it doesn't stick. And then you're going to take your hands, grab the dough, bring it up, fold it over, twist 90, bring it up, fold over, twist 90, and you're going to grab it again. This is where a glass pull is nice, the weight kind of keeps it down. Grab it, 90. So I'm going to do 4 of those, so this is the last one. Pull it up, tilt 90. There, flip it over. And if you are having trouble and it is sticking together, you can pull it up and then kind of shake it and stretch it out. And then you're going to wash your hands. Dry them off. And then you're going to take your saran wrap again, put it over top. Make sure it is covering it all. And since the saran wrap doesn't stick to the plastic, I also add the tea towel over it to weight it down. And then we're going to wait 30 more minutes. So after you wait 30 minutes, you're going to repeat this step 4 times in total. So the salt adding one is 1 turn, but then there's 4 separate turns of folding it, each with 30-minute increments. So you just finished doing 4 separate times where you folded the bread, doing each side. And then for the 5th one, it is called a light fold. So you'll just do just the same thing, just 4 and twisting it. And then for the final one, you only wait 20 minutes, so set your time for 20 minutes. And then we're going to go in and start pulling it out onto the counter for bench rest and cutting and getting it ready for the baskets and rising. So, you waited your 20 minutes and now you're going to get things going with moving the dough. So you're going to take your saran wrap off, you're going to clear your counter space, make sure it's all clear. Don't want anything sticking to the dough. And we're going to just loosen the dough up. The other thing you want to check for while you're making your bread is you want to check for the little bubbles that are popping up. That makes it seem like, or that is a sign that your starter is lively, and your starter was living when you brought it out. So we're gonna plop the dough down like that. Move your bowl. And this is where you're gonna want a scraper, which also serves as a cutter. So you're going to eye it up. You want to get at least, you want to get it 50-50. Because this recipe makes 2 loaves of bread. So, okay, I'm going to pull it over. So when I'm making this bread and this dough, I don't use any extra flour on the counter because I've found that using flour just makes it stick. So what I'll do is usually just use some water to moisten the surface. Okay, so now that we have these 2, we're going to do, I call it my 7-minute bench rest. I just find that like the dough kind of needs to settle a little bit so that it can just kind of wiggle its way out. Okay, as you can see, the dough is kind of spread out a little bit, which is good. So we're going to take it, we're going to wet our hands. Wet your hands, wet your scraper. Take it. Get it all loosened up. Then you're going to take it, you're going to pull it across, and you're going to fold it into itself. Then you're going to take the other corner, and you're going to fold it into itself. Sticking, just scrape it, and then pull it, and fold it into itself. Then you can take it, pull it, and fold it into itself. So you don't want to use too much water on your fingers because then it'll get a little bit too wet. So you're going to pull it, fold it into itself, and then each corner, pull it, fold it into itself, and then pull it. So you can start to feel the tension working into your dough. This is building the gluten strands, which you kind of did already. And so when you start to feel that it's like almost too much tension, you don't want it to get too, you don't want your hands to be too sticky, but you also don't want your hands to be too sticky, but you don't want them to be too wet. It's kind of a fine balance between the two. So you take it, and then you get your ball of dough, and you're going to put it on the counter, and then you're going to pull it towards you. just kind of like sliding it along, sucking it under itself. Kind of like you're making a little bun. You keep doing that, keep alternating corners. You want to watch the tension in the top, you don't want it to crack or burst open. So you keep doing that, you want to make sure you got a lot of counter space for this part. So this is pretty good. So you're going to put that down like that, and then you're going to do the next one. Okay, so after rolling it, this is how your little guys are going to look. It's going to be nice and rounded. But you know what, sometimes it doesn't quite work. I don't fully understand it yet, but sometimes when you're folding it, it just kind of falls apart. And so what I found is you kind of just give it some time and just let it rest on its own for a bit. Just let it settle down. And then you can try folding it again. Another thing, when you're rolling it towards yourself, sometimes you'll get a bunch of goop like this. You can just scrape that out of the way so that when you're pulling it towards yourself, it doesn't get too mucky. Yeah, so I'm just going to leave this for like 10 minutes, just let it rest, and then I'll redo it soon. So we're back after 7 minutes. You can see that it's kind of flattened out a bit more, just kind of spread. And then we're back over to here, so we're supposed to give 20 minutes for these. And they're looking really good so far. So as you can see, they have a nice rounded edge. This one's very nice, good rounded edge. This one's not quite as nice, that's a rounded edge. And then this part, you can see it's starting to get a little bit sloped right there. So if you get one that is completely sloped, like right down, like kind of how this would be after you've rolled it, then that's when you've done something wrong, and then you'll have to refold it again. That's all for this. I'm going to refold this one and make it a little bit better. So, as you can see, this is the one that was right here before. I refolded it. I only had to fold it 3 times because I could still feel some of the tension in it. And folded it 3 times, pulled it towards me, and it was all good. So these ones, these other 3, we're going to give them 10 more minutes just for full bench rest. And then from there we're going to go and start putting them into baskets. Okay, we're back. We got all 4 of them. So I did the same thing with all of them, but they all kind of turned out a little bit different. This one's looking pretty good, the edges are good. This one's getting not quite the best, but since it's not sloping all the way to the counter, it'll be fine for what we're doing. And then this one's looking way better, and that one is just beautiful, like full, rounded, everything. So now we're going to start with getting a bowl. So this is a proofing basket. And this one's really nice because you don't need to use a cloth or anything. And then I use rice flour. Rice flour just helps it not stick to the bowl or the basket. So this is the best thing to use. I only have one of them. And then the other thing you can use is just like a regular basket that you get at the dollar store. And then you open it up, and I've kind of infused it with rice flour, so there's a bunch of rice flour like in there. So we're going to start out with using this one. We're going to do that one today, or right now. Okay, so here we are. Got our rice flour. I'm going to grab a little spoon to go with it. Let's do a big spoon. I'm going to grab it here. So we got this. We're going to grab our trusty scraper. We're going to loosen this up. fold this like a bit of a present. So we're going to take this, we're going to take it 2/3 of the way, leaving a bit, and then we're going to fold it into the middle like that, and then take this other bit and put it into the middle. So we got this one bit at the end, and then we're going to take it, we're going to grab it, pull it over itself, and then roll it back. And then we're going to slide it towards yourself again, kind of getting everything all together. Kind of making it all nice. The hands are a little bit dry, so just put a little bit of water on it, but shakes them off because you don't want them too wet, or else it sticks to the dough and the dough starts sliding all over. And so, there, just tucking it in real nice. And so there, we got a nice little bun going on. So for this part, we are going to be putting the rice flour right on it. So you want to dry off your hands because the rice flour will stick to it a lot. So you want them bone dry. Just quick air dry. And then rub them on your pants. So you're going to take the rice flour. Just take it, and we're gonna wiggle it over top of there. And you can take the spoon and spread it, and then the rice flour does create a nice little layer that you won't be sticking to. And then you're gonna wiggle it around so that the rice flour that's falling off the edges will hit the sides. And then put it on the sides. And then take that. And then you're going to grab your basket with your tea towel on it. You're going to scrape it up. You're going to flip it. Kind of wants to fall all over. And then you're going to lay it in that basket like a little baby. Then you're going to take your rice flour and you're going to put it on top. So this rice flour is also going to keep your bread from sticking when it's in the Dutch oven. So you're going to spread it all over. Make sure you get the corners, because all these edges, you want to pull it back. Make sure that nothing is sticking or sticking to your hand. So yeah, that one's good. Then we're going to fold it over, fold it over, fold it over, fold it over. So now that you have this done, if you're going to be baking it the same day, you're going to just put it on the counter and you're going to wait 2 to 3 hours, 2.5 to 3 hours. And then I always start preheating the oven after that. But if you're going to bake it in the morning, then you take it in your basket and you put it in the fridge, and you can store it in the fridge for up to 12 hours. If you go over 12 hours, then things start to fall apart and you don't get as much rise. Okay, so we have waited for 3 hours. We've preheated the oven to 500 degrees with the Dutch ovens inside the oven preheating. And now we're going to pop them out and we're going to put the bread, which has been rising, into the Dutch oven. Follow along. So the Dutch oven is piping hot. I'm gonna grab the bread. Back in the sides. And just flip it over like that. Now I'm going to take a knife, any X-Acto knife will do. We're going to slice it. Bake it for 20 minutes at 500 degrees Fahrenheit. And then after 20 minutes, we're going to open it up, take the lids off the Dutch ovens, and then bake it for an additional 20 minutes after we've lowered the temperature to 450 degrees.